Hello, everybody. Welcome to Harris After Dark, or whatever it's called. My name is Chris, and you're not here for me. You're here for the gloriously wonderful Jim McCormick. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
Nice to have you here. I'm sure the euphoria of the Eagles' victory has still not worn off, and you are completely satisfied, and whatever happens from this point forward, you'll be fine.
I mean, life is just an Eagles game, That's what my dad always said, So he didn't say that. He just said, please stop screaming about the Eagles. So
That's funny. Your dad and I have a lot in common. All right, so our goal here today is to preview the conference championships. We're going to look back a little bit at the divisional round. They call it the best weekend in football. We'll talk about whether we think it lived up to it. We will make picks, and we will maybe talk a couple of over/under type totals, and then we'll be here next week as well. We're going to have, during the off week before the Super Bowl, we're going to have like kind of a prop bet extravaganza show. So we'll be with you right up until the Super Bowl. So Jim, I should say last week, you went 3-1 against the spread. I went 2-2 against the spread. I think we both probably feel pretty hard done by with the Jags kicking that last field goal, which was good football strategy, but bad for our stuff. The Chiefs had a 10-point lead. The Jags decided to go for the field goal on the onside kick. It didn't work. So the Chiefs didn't cover. I mean, I feel like that was good process. We did that one pretty well. That was my best bet of the week as well. And then the other game we differed on was Cowboys 49ers. And that's kind of where I wanted to start talking for this show, because I feel like, so you were on the Niners, I was on the Cowboys. For a lot of that game, I felt pretty good, even with Dak Prescott puking on himself, and I'll mention that a little more in a second. But what was my logic behind liking the Cowboys last week? Do you remember?
That Brock Purdy hasn't been there yet? I don't know. It was like, just experience.
Yeah, Brock Purdy was going to hit the limits of what Brock Purdy's capable of doing. And, buddy, he did, right? Like, he was terrible in that game.
He was like, I play one song, and they were like, yeah, we know. And then and the Cowboys were just like, cool, we play one song too. So we're cool with that. Like, it was a jam band in a garage, and
it was not good. Yeah, no. It was not a good offensive game. Two very good defenses.
Right.
I'll say the throw to Kittle that sort of decided the game, that got the Niners out from under their own goalposts late in the game, and it was a great play by Kittle. It's a really good throw too. I can't tell you Brock Purdy didn't have moments, but the dude runs around. Mm-hmm. The dude thinks he's a lot more agile than he is.
Right.
I feel like against a good defense, we got a preview of what we're gonna get this week. It feels like what I talked about, not being positive that he couldn't do it, but feeling like until I saw that he could do it against a not 27th or worst ranked defense,
right,
like we talked about last week, I was gonna kind of not believe it, and that part came true. And then the problem was that Dak Prescott plays for the other team.
Yeah, they just didn't capitalize. There's so many opportunities. There really were, and it was a wide open game. Really, like, I don't think the analysis gives it the benefit that it deserves. Like, it was a wide open game. So,
and if Prescott doesn't like turnovers like he likes, just like he likes Serta sleepers or whatever. I don't know what. That's not it. Sleep Number? I don't know. I'm giving free publicity to bed companies, and not the one that sponsors me. Hi, Lisa. Just rancid. Like, however bad Purdy played, Prescott played worse.
Right. No, it was mistake prone. I mean, it was just the one thing that you mentioned before is that you just can't put the game kind of up to question, right? Against this 49ers defense, and that's exactly what Dak did. So, I mean, if you just
played conservatively,
and the Twitter account followed. It was real. All the drafts were unleashed. It was great. So,
Twitter was not kind to Dak, and rightly so. I mean, it's obviously going to be harsher than it deserves to be. He's still a good quarterback, but he is not a great quarterback, and he's in the world of salary cap constraints that you and I know are totally fake, and NFL teams have brainwashed the football watching public into thinking, oh, there's a limited amount of money, guys.
We can't afford it.
We can't possibly afford it. But in that world where they've kind of convinced the world that they are constrained spending-wise, spending $40 million a year on a quarterback who's not one of the 6 or 7 best quarterbacks is not good strategy.
I mean, no appetizers for the owners. You know what I mean? Just straight up entrees.
That's right. I mean, Joe Jones goes to that restaurant with all those ladies, and he simply cannot order the apps. All right, so that was our other one. You got the Niners right. I got the Cowboys wrong. We've done okay so far. I'm 500. You now are over 500 for the playoffs, and we move on. I feel like we're going to get to the big event for the Chiefs as we talk about that game. I mean, that's clearly affecting the line. Of course, I'm referring to the Patrick Mahomes injury. Your best bet, what was your best bet last week?
My best bet was
the Philadelphia Eagles.
It was
those Philadelphia Eagles, and they came through.
It worked out. Yeah, it did. It did work out.
As far as our viewers go, Ethan Houghton is the viewer who posted down the comments of last week's video and picked the 49ers. And so, Ethan, screw you, but nice job.
Good work.
and now... No. Good job, Ethan. We appreciate you watching, and you did get it correct. You made the money. So we move on, and we're going to talk about 2 games. We'll talk about them at length, how we feel about them as football games, and then also as bettable events. We'll start with I will say this. Probably looking, from the perspective of a few weeks ago, if I'd given you 5 teams that you thought had the best chance to get to the conference championships, the only one missing here is probably Buffalo, right? It's probably those 5 guys. We don't think any of them are super elite. Maybe it'll turn out they are. We'll see if the playoffs bring it out of them. But I don't feel like there's not a pretender here.
No, the NFL followed the recipe. Like, if we reduce the sauce, this is it.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't always work out that way, though. It doesn't always work out that way.
No. I remember last year we did a preview, mentioning AFC felt more wide open, right, last year, in terms of we weren't able to read it.
We didn't see the Bengals coming.
No. And so now we're obviously more prepared for that reality. But, this is a reduction of the best teams. I don't feel like there's – like you said, Buffalo would be the only one that you wouldn't expect to be here. But then – hindsight's really valuable, because after seeing them, you're like, okay, they shouldn't be here.
Right. Our pick before the playoffs started, we both had Bills Eagles in the Super Bowl, but having seen after that Dolphins game, I sure didn't feel good about that.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes it. This is more valid, I suppose, and it doesn't feel like any of these it doesn't feel like there was any trick shot here. This feels like exactly how the bracket should have resulted. This feels very. Yeah, NCAA-ish. Yeah,
so that one in the tournament never works out that way. But let's take the first half of the bracket. We'll do the NFC. We'll do those 49ers finally having to play a real road game in a cold environment and a very hostile environment. The Niners' last road game was Vegas, which was essentially a home game.
Home game, yeah.
Raider fans didn't really show, and the Niners fans did. The Eagles looked everybody as good as you expected them to. I had them covering last week against the Giants as well. You were more confident than I, and now coming out of those respective games, it's understandable why the public is leaning towards Philadelphia. As of our recording this, and again, these lines do move, but as of our recording this, the line is Eagles -2.5. Let's talk about anything you want to talk about. Talk about how you think the game goes and where you are money-wise.
Yeah, this is strange that I'm this confident, but I like the Eagles. I don't know why. I know why. It feels actually a little bit like a college team. And what I mean by that is they don't have your traditional depth charts. There's a strange layering of talent going on with the edge. There's waves.
The Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's waves of actual impact players, and I think your number one thing would be for Purdy, to protect Purdy would be let's see if we can create a safe environment for this guy. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that the Cowboys seem like a more traditional build where it's one ace pass rusher and then there's a cliff. And with the Eagles, I'm not sure they have anybody close to Bosa. They don't, or to Parsons, but they have this like kind of GPA that's like evened out. Like they have a bunch of B plus pass rushers. And I guess my point is that like who you have to stop for the Eagles is much more difficult in terms of protecting Purdy than it is a traditional team. It's a strange wave of edge talent that I think will be the factor here. I don't think that you can just like scheme out the Eagles pass rush. Whereas it's more traditional with like the Cowboys. You had to stop Parsons. So
I'll say this also isn't, didn't they have a problem at defensive tackle, and didn't they pretty much fill it in with a couple of names that everybody knows and are probably past their prime, but like they get pressure too.
Yeah, they do. I mean, Sue, first of all, nobody was drug testing the Dominican Sue for like 12 weeks. Let's just be honest. Like, what was in his protein shake, guys? What was in his protein shake?
Yeah.
Linval Joseph, I'm not even, like, I just think he was eating raw eggs. And then Robert Quinn, everyone forgets about him. I think he forgot about him. I don't think he knows he plays football anymore.
He doesn't feel like as much of a factor, but I was talking about Sue and Joseph. I grant you this is a harder ask for them because they are past their prime, but I think they'll hold up.
Yeah, and also it's like I think like what I was saying before about the Niners is like, for example, the gap between Bosa and the next like edge rusher is 18 and a half and 5.5 sacks. And I know counting numbers aren't really where we're going here, but what I mean is like it's like kind of a baseball lineup or a hockey lineup has two real lines, or a baseball lineup that has two waves of hitters. I just feel like Philadelphia, it's hard to scheme for them because they keep coming. It's not traditional to have this many guys, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be on the same side here, and we're going to equally feel strongly about it. This is going to be my best bet too. I set this line at 5.5.
Wow. I like that. Thank you.
So I and this comes down to me seeing Purdy kind of hit the wall a little bit. Like I just felt like that was not a winning performance. And, the way the Niners, the path to victory here for the Niners is not to outscore the Eagles in this game. They don't want to be. No,
it's narrow. Yeah.
Not with the Purdy. I mean, it's their defense is great. Like I know you're into the Eagle defense. The Niner defense is awfully good too. They're probably the two best defenses in the league, and certainly the two best defenses left. It's just the Niners' path is we got to win 1916. We got to do what we did last week. We got to just find a way to be bad offensively, but have it not matter that much for a long period of time. It's actually why maybe even as much as I like Eagles minus 2.5, the under point. Well, I'll take the Niners under. The Niners under 22.5.
Right.
And it's 22.5. I think it's minus 110 the last time I checked before we started recording. So like, I don't even know about the team under, because I think there are ways for Philly to score points here. Because let's spin it back the other way. We haven't talked about Philadelphia's offense. Like they have a lot of weapons, and I'm not, I'm not 100% sold that Jalen Hurts is a totally amazing passer, but he can throw the deep ball. And how do you beat San Francisco's defense if you can block, which we'll find out. I mean, that's another thing. Is Bosa healthy? Because Bosa hasn't been as much of a factor lately. He was crushing the league, and this past few weeks maybe hasn't looked quite as good. But if you can block him up, they can be beaten deep. That Lenore kid gets fried, and boy, A.J. Brown sure does make plays down the field. Devontae Smith sure does make plays down the field. I don't even know about the total for the game, but I like the Niners under. I like the Niners under 22.5.
That's interesting. I mean, it plays into like a game script kind of thing. Like meaning it's almost like you'd rather take if you're going to do that, you'd almost rather take the Niners over and the Niners, right? Like meaning like there's not many paths. Right. There are paths, obviously, to many games emerging, but I understand what you're saying, that like if we're expecting the Niners to play their game, then it's going to be a grind, right? And the Eagles can pull it off too.
Good luck running against the Eagles. It's not. That's why the defensive tackles have been important lately. I like the Eagles a lot here. A lot. This is my triple play special.
Yeah. No, since that Commanders game, honestly, since Antonio Gibson just like, I don't know, embarrassed them
Yeah.
on Monday Night Football. They've addressed it. Obviously, they like were texting people who weren't being drug tested, and like it's true. Like when you add 600 pounds of untested person, that's pretty good. So, but I guess my other part is just like you said, the waves, but also just like um,
I think you said the waves.
no, I said the waves. I'm about the waves. Okay, the Jersey Shore waves. Okay, yeah, yeah, go Birds. But honestly, no, you're saying everything that I want you to say. Thank you. This
Which is scary, right?
It's making my soul feel better. But the risk, obviously, is that they don't get to Purdy and that they somehow block it up and they make it clean. And I think the other thing that, like, not that we're missing is that, like, we haven't talked about this yet, but like 12 of the last 14 running back touches went to Mitchell. So
Right.
I'm wondering what was going on there because it's not.
Yeah, McCaffrey looked like he was hurt, and actually now Mitchell's the one who's showing up on the injury report with a groin injury.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll see. I just don't think the Niners are going to score points here. That's the way I view this game is like Niners lose something to 16 or they win 16-14.
Right.
I'm and this is clearly a bias against Purdy. I just don't think he's good. I don't think he's at the level of these other three quarterbacks. I just don't. What do you make of the fact that the line moves? It opens at 1.5 Eagles. It goes to 2.5 pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it speaks to like just the respect that people have for this Niners team, and I also think it speaks to what you said.
It moved the other way. It went 1.5 Eagles to 2.5 Eagles.
No. What I mean by that is that actually, like, I think the line wasn't set correctly to begin with.
Oh, I see.
Meaning, I think it actually like adjusted so quickly that like, it was really within like an hour, that it went to 2.5. So what I guess I meant by that is settled pretty quickly where it should be. But I actually think that like had they not been so impressive with the Purdy effect that like people would have been like, like if this was Jimmy Garoppolo, it might be 2.5 off the bat. Like there's a sense of mystery I think they're selling here that like this guy's special. My favorite stat was if he wins a road playoff game, he'll tie Steve Young and Joe Montana in playoff wins.
Well, we'll see if it happens. We'll get to the second game in a second. Let's thank the sponsor because without DraftKings, we wouldn't have had this show all season long. They've got that same deal going on right now. If you're going to be watching these games and you're interested in maybe parlaying something that we talk about, or take the Eagles and the points and the Niners under, or whatever, DraftKings is a great place to do it. We just ask if you download the DraftKings app. It really does help us out, and it indicates to them that sponsoring worked. If you use the code HarrisTube, nobody here is making money based on your conversion into a client of DraftKings. This is advertising entirely. I promise you, it's not about, oh boy, we make $4 every time someone signs up. It's just advertising, but we would love them to think of this as a good advertising program. So if you're looking for a place to play the games, and I happen to know that our producer Dave Piper was looking for a place to play the games after an entire season of producing the show and not downloading the DraftKings app. Last week, he finally did it. He actually made a $5 bet and instantly got $200 in free bets. That's the promotion they have going on. And then proceeded to, as I'm being told in my ear right now, pee it all away. Not all. He actually made money. He made $16, but he was mad at many of the prop bets that he picked. And it's fun. It just gives you a rooting interest. They'll give you $200 just to fool around with. So please do, if you do download the app, if you sign up with HarrisTube, that does help us out a lot. Thank you very much to DraftKings. Okay. So now we get to the AFC championship game, and we get to talk about Mahomes. The line, that's a line movement. The line opened Kansas City -2.5, and you want to talk about a fast moving line immediately. And let's be clear, because the Chiefs game had happened on Saturday, and the Bengals were killing the Bills. It was like third to fourth quarter of the Cincinnati-Buffalo game when the official AFC Championship game line came out, and pretty much everywhere opened it at 2.5, and that did not last, my friend. It is now, we're now to the point where it's Bengals on the road, -1. This is obviously about Patrick Mahomes' high ankle sprain. How are you approaching this one?
Well, one, I just want to advise Dave to stop betting the Pistons. When I said bet the Pistons, I didn't mean on the Pistons. Okay, so I just meant like bet the Pistons like games, like meaning against them. In any case, what a flip, right? Obviously, but also what an injury. This
But the
one's
thing
tough.
is, the thing that's crazy about it is the injury was known. That's what I'm trying to get across.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the injury was known. It just wasn't valued according to the market. It wasn't
To the
valued
opponent.
properly.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then I don't know what the halftime Toradol count is. I don't know how that works. Like, I don't know how we evaluate that. This is tough for me because I've been around Andy Reid a long time. I respect this guy. Like, meaning I've been a fan of his teams for a long time. I feel like if anybody's prepared to overcome this kind of thing, whew, this is tough. I'm going to take the points at home with Kansas City. This is tough.
All right.
But I just believe that, like, they find a way around this. I saw him walk off the dais today, and he put weight on his ankle on a carpet. No, seriously. That's the worst analysis possible. What I really want to say is that I just trust their weirdness. I trust Kansas City's weirdness. Meaning,
I don't think they're that good, man.
No, they're not.
I've kind of reached the point where I'm going to be on the Bengals here. I said it at 3.
Wow.
I said Bengals -3. I don't feel as confident about this one as I do about the Eagles. I kind of get where you're coming from, because I think if you parachute in from like 20,000 feet and you just say, hey, man, Patrick Mahomes finished the game and actually came through with a really big touchdown when they most needed it, thrown off a 1 foot in the red zone. It was a really nice play. Also, by the way, Chad Henne led a 97-yard touchdown drive when Mahomes was out. So
ruined all my prop bets, by the way. Ruined all my prop bets.
So like, you're telling me that they're pretty damn functional offensively, and you're telling me I get 3.5 points of value relative to what the wise guys thought it should be,
the opening,
because of an ankle injury that he's going to play with and just beat Jacksonville with. I like that value. If that's where you're coming from, is that where you're coming from? Because I understand that.
I am. I didn't factor in the fact that Eli Apple said it's now called Barrowhead and not Arrowhead, so I didn't factor that part in. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, at that point now, the Chiefs are so mad that they're a lock. Yeah. So I think obviously the Mahomes injury is massive. There is. If we try to think of what the expected value of the Chiefs offense is in this particular game against the Bengals, who have had a really successful time against Mahomes the last 3 times they've played.
Yeah, 4 in a row.
But the expected value of that offense would be higher if Mahomes were healthy. Like, nobody's arguing it's not some degree of downgrade. Should it be 3.5 points of downgrade, the way the market's saying?
How do we quantify it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredibly hard to know. I don't know the answer to that. But it's some level of downgrade. And I think it manifests they're still good and they're still going to score. But it manifests with, 3rd and 8, the way that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes always frustrate you and pull it out is by scrambling, is by just, you've got everything covered, you did everything right, and they do something magic. And I don't think that's on the table. I don't think the escape out the hatch and run around thing is on the table. He can be and will be, because he's elite, super elite, one of the best to ever play the position. Of course, they're going to score points and they're going to be good, but that play isn't there, and to me, that's I don't know how to measure that. Is that 3.5 points? I don't have any way of knowing. What I'll tell you is, I really like the Bengals offense in this game.
Yeah,
I really, really like the Bengals offense in this game. Like,
because the Chiefs don't have that edge. You mean, like, there's no way to really affect what Barrow likes. Like, he loves living in that cocoon, and which he's great at.
This is kind of a funky stat, because of course teams are throwing against Kansas City because they're always behind because the offense is so good.
Sure,
but they gave up the most touchdown passes in the league this year.
Right.
33.
Yeah.
They struggle the most, if they struggle at all, on defense when they play against 11 personnel, because it's 3 receivers and a tight end underneath, and they don't really have that thing. Guess what Cincinnati plays?
Stop saying this stuff. I already picked the Chiefs.
Almost exclusively 11 personnel. This is where I'm coming from. I like the Bengals. I really like the Bengal point total over. Okay. It's 23.5. And as of our recording right now, I'm checking right now, it's -130. So it is, you're not getting good vig on 23.5, but I really like the Bengals to score. And I think the Chiefs could score 2, and the Chiefs can, of course, win this game. Right. But I think the way that the Chiefs are going to have to win is by scoring a bunch of points, and by Travis Kelce doing what he did last week, being one of the greatest tight ends that's ever lived, and just kind of taking the team on his back, and he can do it. The thing when you watched the Jags play against Travis Kelce, like the first 6 or 7 times Kelce made a catch, didn't you wonder why they weren't taking?
Yeah, like what are you doing? Like, why did you pay Olaquan like $100 million? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Just put somebody on him.
Cincinnati does a pretty good. Nobody's gonna stop Travis Kelce. Like nobody's gonna.
No, yeah.
But you said something super smart on the show last week, which is like Mahomes is going to win the MVP, and he has literally no receivers that anybody would want as their number 1 receiver.
No, yeah,
and I'm not sure they would want him as their number 2 receiver. You know.
No,
So I think the Chiefs' path here is very viable. I think you could be absolutely right that the market is just overreacting to the injury, but I'll say, I'm trying not to get blinded by how good Cincinnati's offense looked against Buffalo because, man, I mean, they just looked so good. But I think it's a great matchup for the Bengals offense against the Chiefs defense. You pay Chris Jones is a great player. You pay much closer attention to IDP, to the individual defensive players that I do. Am I crazy about that? Am I crazy there?
No, I mean, they don't win on the edge. Like Chris Jones is probably the closest thing we've had since Donald. Like, he's bigger, he's different, but like I forget what the number was. He had like 80 quarterback pressures, which is like
from up the middle, where he's getting doubled every damn play. I
don't know what the value, how to quantify that versus edge pressures, but it's a lot more. Meaning, like in terms of its value,
right up your face.
At the same time, I hate this, but I'm speaking to what I said about the Niners, which is that they have a more traditional hierarchy of pass rusher. Meaning, like, not that figuring out Bosa is easy or that figuring out Jones is easy, but what if you did that? Then the rest of the fire isn't as, dangerous. Right. So I guess that's my thing. But I also really do respect Spags. I respect how they scheme. And there's a part of me that honestly, and this sounds crazy, but my boomer take is that experience and being there matters. And there's something about Andy Reid having like the water boy playbook. like where they're
gonna do goofy stuff.
He's going to do some double reverse to Mecole Hardman. It's like, I thought Mecole Hardman stopped playing. It's like, no, he still runs a 4.1. Nobody likes him. So,
I'm being told Steve Spagnuolo also Eagles ties. It's weird that you would bring him up.
Weird. Yeah. And Andy Reid, I mean, what? But honestly, my reasoning is much more based on precedent than it is on what's happening right now. So that might not be the best book.
Well, there's also to make the Chiefs case, there is the thought that however they held together the offensive line against the Bills can't last. It's still a bunch of slappies, it's still it's still a bunch of backups and stuff. And that is still a possibility. That is still true. That I'm not claiming because they were able to run against Buffalo with Buffalo's playing 2 safeties back and just zoning up and doing what they do and, getting eaten alive. That automatically means that they can do that against the Chiefs. In fact, they probably can't. The Bills don't have anybody in the middle of the defense like Chris Jones. I'll just say that I feel somewhat vindicated for my take all season long that the Bengals offensive line was terrible when the guys weren't hurt. It's been bad all season.
The whole time. You said it was a fire drill the whole time. So it's like, if anybody's prepared for the fire drill, it's Joe Burrow, who takes his iPod out in class and is like, hey.
Well, can we like not put Jonah Williams in the Hall of Fame? I think he might be the worst left tackle in the league. Like, oh no, he's hurt. Like, yeah. So
that's also Twitter knowing a few offensive linemen's names.
That's right. Exactly right. I remember him. He played at a big college. Yeah. No, it's 100% true. Yeah. It just becomes one factoid they can throw at you. Right. And I just don't think now. It's not to say the Chiefs can't put a lot of pressure on them and make me look foolish. They absolutely can. But last week proved that they don't miss the guys who were starters because they aren't particularly better than
I think they'll have to sell out to do so, though. Like, I don't think they're going to do it naturally. They're going to have to do something unique. And maybe Spags has an old Jimmy Johnson book. I have no idea, So
yeah, I the more I talk about, the more I go, oh yeah, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and like they're really great and a lot better than anything Kansas City has Kelce, and so like you could say it's 2-1. Kelce's every bit the factor but not as far down the field. I think there are big plays there to be made. And like
not Tyler Eifert anymore, kids. Not Tyler Eifert anymore. So.
I go with Joe Cool, I guess. I don't think going into he's undefeated in his last 11 cold weather games. I think I read a stat like he's won his 11 coldest games of his career. He's won in the NFL.
I mean, honestly, there's something like his quotes, like his lines get really bad sometimes, but they're so good. And then also, conversely, Jalen Hurts only speaks in fortune cookies. Like, if you ask Jalen Hurts anything, he's like, they're like, "What's your limit?" He's like, "There's no limit. The sky is not my limit. I am the limit." It's like, what the hell did you just say?
It's the Denny Carter. It's the Denny Carter tweet. The knife is
exactly.
The knife is whatever it is. The knife is a knife. I don't know. Look it up, kids.
I get it. Love it.
All right. Well, so I think we both feel strongest about. Am I right that your best bet is with the Eagles?
It is. It is. Yeah.
I think we both feel pretty strongly about that, and we each see each other's points on the AFC game, and we'll see.
It's pretty hard to read that one, but it's a feel.
Fun.
So.
It's a fun game though. They're both fun games. I mean, I feel like if Purdy gets unmasked, it's like a 38-10 game potentially. Yeah. But if he doesn't, then that's a fun one. And man, there's just the more rematches you get up to a point, it's fun, and then it turns into Cavs Warriors, and you're like, can we not do this anymore?
It's like at that point, fun is interpreted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not so good. All right, so we would like to know, you viewers, down in the comments. Let us know what your best bet of these two games are. If there's like a prop that you love in these games or a total that you love, let us know that as well. We will shout out somebody on next week's show. And as I said, there will be a show next week. We'll have Super Bowl teams. We'll do some review of what these games wound up looking like. We probably won't give away everything, all of our thoughts about the game, because we have a show to do right before the Super Bowl as well. But we'll start digging into props and maybe things that surprised us and stuff like that on next week's show. We want to thank DraftKings for sponsoring. I want to thank Dave Piper for being an incredible producer. I want to thank Jim McCormick for being hilarious and very fun to talk to. And I'm just Chris, and we really appreciate you watching. I hope you'll like and subscribe and all that stuff. And we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button, and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.